We're not even on the air yet. Shoot, Alex. Budkey's looking at his watch like my old man. For the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for September 7th, 2022, roll call.
Arel. Budkey.
Here.
Kuhn.
Here.
Lunsky. Matichek.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
Reichert.
Here.
Sandy. Wasvik.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, with that, reading and approval of the minutes from the August 3rd meeting. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Second by Mr. Budkey, moved by Mr. Reichert. Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved as submitted. 3.
Item 3-1, public hearing fast track gown edition located at 3811 54th Avenue North.
Miss Edwardson.
Good evening. We're up on 54th Avenue North. We saw this last month for preliminary. This would be final. They're reconfiguring an existing 2.5 acre parcel to match the neighboring property to square it off. So fairly simple replat, and with that, I'd answer any questions.
Okay, I guess before I open the public hearing, anybody have anything for Andrea? With that, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody who wants to address item 3.1, please step up to the mic. Seeing nobody, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval. Second.
Mr. Matichek, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 3-1 passes. 3-2.
Item 3-2, public hearing fast track Wally Substation addition located at the 11th block of 10th Street Northeast.
Ms. Edwardson.
Okay, so for this one, we're on the south end of town along South Washington Street. Minkota Power is looking to develop a substation in the area and acquired land to do so. And this replat is just the setting of those property lines for that substation. We are setting aside a different lot, a separate lot for access for future city right-of-way when the time comes for the city to grow out that far to acquire it. But other than that, it's a fairly standard replat. I can answer any questions.
Mr. Reichert.
What are we talking about as far as size here, and what are we required to like enclose it or wall it off? I'm thinking of the one on Columbia Road. Is it going to be that big?
Well, it's a 10-acre site, over 10-acre site. Typically all of their substations do have, fencing around it and things like that. I believe representatives are here who can talk about it. But we certainly from the city aspect haven't required a walled off version like you see on South Columbia.
Okay.
So it'd be probably more similar to their facilities that are currently outside of town, kind of out by the new Minkota headquarters. Those facilities have fencing, but not a walled structure by any means.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Matichek.
Thank you. I don't want to muddy the waters here, but I don't know why I get these phone calls. People want to know why we have all the Bitcoin places around electrical substations and stuff, okay? And I said, I don't know. I don't even know how they're zoned or whatever, which we probably should know about, but we don't. I don't know if they're a permitted use or whatever. Mr. Brooks is getting ready here. That's fine. But with this type of situation, this substation, can somebody put another Bitcoin place right next to this without anything?
I would think they'd need the zoning. Mr. Brooks, I see you have.
What is the zoning for a Bitcoin?
I2.
I-2.
I2.
Yeah, this will still be ag.
All 6 of them that are in Grand Forks are in an I2.
As far as I know, all 6. I don't know if there's 6.
There's
There's
6.
3.
No, there's 6.
I could be wrong.
There's 6.
If you can get me the sites of the 6.
I will. I'd be
Yeah.
glad to do that. A couple of them are in buildings that you don't know about probably, but that's okay too. But my point is that I had a call about what's going on with this stuff. We have, and I shouldn't muddy the waters with this particular situation here, but talking about blackouts and talking about the extra power usage that is used by these sources, these plants, or whatever, well, I don't know, what do you want to call them, plants?
Data centers.
Data centers, okay, I'll go with that, yeah. So I'm just curious, because I had 2 phone calls about it, because they think there's some kind of zoning or something that should be done to regulate how they're set up in Grand Forks.
They have to
And to be
follow-
honest, I didn't even know we had that many.
I mean, I just from experience in doing a couple of them,
Yeah.
they do have to meet all the health codes, sound, industrial, I-2, they have to meet all of those regulations.
Well, I know the one behind the bun, that's by a German company, and the mayor's talked about it more than once, is that they have a problem with the fan noise there and they're trying to work on that, but, you know, I'm just trying to figure out, every time there's a new substation, is there going to be a new Bitcoin factory, or data center, I guess you want to call it. So I'm just asking that. I'm not against having the site out here, but just curious about how everything evolves after that.
Sure, that'd be way above my pay grade.
Yeah, they need zoning. We're not anticipating changing zoning to I-2 out here, so that, but in our ag districts, substations are allowed.
Right,
So,
but could a Bitcoin place be next to a substation in an ag district?
no,
They'd have to change it to
they'd
I-1
have to
or
go
I-2.
to industrial zoning.
So all the rest of these are in I-1 or I-2?
The ones I know about are all in I-2.
Okay.
Yep. So if there's something I know of,
Have we ever had one that...
you're talking about double that I know of,
Well,
so
yeah.
I guess I'd have to check those
Okay.
sites. But
Have we ever had one come in and request a zoning change just for that operation?
not-
I don't
not
remember
of
one.
the
I
3.
might have missed it.
They've all located in I-2.
They've already all
The 3 I'm
located.
aware of are in I-2.
Because most of the big electrical situations are in an I-1 or an I-2, right? Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? We do have a public hearing, so at this time Mr. Budke.
Yeah, so Andrew, you mentioned this and it was in the staff report too, but you said when the city expands to this area, this is beyond the flood protection, correct? This is south of the flood protection? So are we,
I couldn't remember where the south line was, but yes.
okay, so are we expanding south of the,
It's written
Flood
into an agreement that should it ever get that far. Right now, it's beyond our scope of any future plan for right now. However, we don't want to set up a situation where we left ourselves without the ability to acquire it, which is why it's set to a separate lot at this time. So it's left very wide open for future possibilities. When we take right away as typical fashion, then we have to take over the maintenance and the construction and things like that. And this is so far out of our maintenance abilities, we didn't want to take that on right now. But we've set this separate lot up to have that discussion should we ever need to in the future. So it's not a guarantee that we're going to take it by any means. It's not a time frame of when we'll take it. It's should we ever develop out that far, we have the ability to open negotiations to acquire that.
oh, okay, have the ability,
Can I
meaning
explain
it's,
that, Brad?
Yes. What we were trying to do is to set it up so that there was a corridor along the quarter section line that will, similar to what we have on all of our quarter section lines within the city, that we could build utilities, streets, et cetera.
Okay.
We wanted to assure the substation itself was going to be far enough off the line, but we also wanted to set it up so that landowners can use it for whatever purpose they need to today. We don't need it for access. We don't need it for any infrastructure. The substation isn't going to require any on our part. So we had no reason to acquire a right-of-way. We just acquired an easement that we could exercise in the future over that lot to build these things when we decide to do it. But the current landowners can do what they want to until that time comes.
Okay.
And it's much less restrictive, much more flexible to meet their needs until the next 20, 30 years as to when the flood protection moves out that way. And other landowners are going to develop and dedicate. We certainly wouldn't want to have to come back and purchase other land to help those dedications along.
okay, and that makes a lot of sense to me. But there, you mentioned that like when the flood expansion, or when the flood protection expands, is that I've never heard of that before. Is that?
No, it's based on the premise that the city will grow eventually. It could be 50 years down the road. Could be
Okay.
100 years down the road. It's going to be based on just what the city needs, but again, we don't want to limit ourselves, and we don't want to hamstring the owners today. This was the best mix of both.
Okay.
To your point, it's quite a feat to expand our flood protection system, but should we ever
Right.
roll that out far and need to address that, we're leaving ourselves the opportunity to have that discussion if and when that time ever comes.
Okay, yeah, I, just to be clear, I don't have any issue with the plat here, more so how we're framing this. Like,
Sure.
are we really going to be expanding city services and the city limits city property beyond the flood protection? I think that's a big
It's more
question.
of like a bookmark or a possibility for us to maintain our street network system if we ever do find ourselves out that far. It leaves it, like Brad said, fully open for the landowners to utilize it till that happens, but we aren't, shooting ourselves in the foot should we ever find ourselves 75 years, 100 years from now, needing that right away. We will have addressed it at that time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
I think that was covered pretty well, but the one thing I wanted to point out was Al Grasser looks a little bit different tonight because it's
yes.
Brad Danielson who's the planning and right-of-way officer, so I just wanted to point that out.
Perfect, thank you for doing that. Okay, so I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience like to step up and address 3-2, please do so at this time. Not seeing anybody, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to commission. Mr. Reichert?
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Kuhn. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 3-3.
Item 3-3, public hearing off premises billboard sign for South Washington Street located at 1401 South Washington Street.
Mr. Brooks?
Okay, I'm sure I'm going to screw up the sharing, so hopefully everybody can see what I've got going on here on the screen. So I'll first start with where we're at here. South Washington Street is located here. As we've been discussing over the last few months, we've changed our code to allow for additional billboards along South Washington. We hadn't met our cap yet, actually. We were allowed 9 along that corridor. This application, ironically, is the 9th one, but it's at 1401 South Washington Street, located here. Recently, the previous one that was built along this corridor was, I call it the Mexican Village Strip Mall, but I think it does have a different name that I usually forget, but that's located here. It's over 500 feet away, which is the requirement to code. The sign or the location being proposed is located here. There was some documentation within the packet that kind of showed schematically what that would look like. It is helpful when the billboard companies kind of put those out there to assist folks with what that was going to look like. So again, that location's over 500 feet from that new one that was located. In addition, they're proposing to take down the milk crate sign, I think that's on top of the building. And someone told me recently that maybe that just happened in the last day or so. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is kind of take away from that visual clutter. So with that, the requirements as they are laid out in code, the request from Newman Sign kind of helps with the first, the 3 conditions that planning and zoning has to take a look at when we have these 3 conditions. The creation of visual clutter is the one. I think that was, I don't know if the intent was to take down that sign just to help with that, but I think that sign may have been coming down. There may have been other issues, I'm not sure. But it certainly does help with that. As you saw in the schematic, this billboard is actually up, which is something we're seeing in a lot of urban areas. I actually like that from a visual clutter standpoint. I think when they're landscape, if you will, I think it becomes more block. It's going to cover a bigger area, it seems. I think tilting it up on end actually helps. I think we're going to have some other requests in the future too to have those upright. So visual sight lines at roadway entrances on the property where the off-premise advertising sign will be located and on abutting properties. So what we're trying to make sure is that that isn't going to block traffic. People can still see going in and out. In this location, we're still requiring that as well. We have something called a 30-foot vision clearway zone, and so that'll still be had at the corner. I think the other benefit here is that our right-of-way narrows up just to the north of this, and so people, the sign's going to be back here. There's actually going to be a little bit of stacking, so as people turn here, they're going to be out in front of it as well. So it gives a little bit sightline improvement there as well. And then concentration of off-premise signs. So our requirement is that they're 500 feet away. We've opened it up, so I think this third one's, I think the concern maybe is a little less, although that's certainly up for your take on that. But we have removed the cap along this corridor, so I think as long as they're 500 feet away, it's kind of hard to say whether there's going to be a concentration of them since they're allowed to go every 500 feet. So with that, the other thing I wanted to mention, we did get a call. We did have a neighbor, and he may be on Zoom tonight as well. We did get a call from them. They just had some questions for us in terms of some of their concerns. In talking with them, I kind of let them know some of the other signs that could go on the property. He was worried about property value, and he's here to answer to some of those, but and then traffic as well in terms of that turn radius, making sure that you can get in and out of the site. It is going to be on a pole, and we will be making sure that that doesn't affect traffic movement on the site itself.
So how far back from Washington is it? Because if you look at two of the pictures, it's, you know, it looks like feet away, and then if you look at the second page, it's in the middle of the building.
Yeah.
The actual, you know, we'll still get with them on that, but it's going to have to be at least 15 foot back to meet that vision clearway.
That's it?
Yep. So the poles, they have the ability to put those poles and not necessarily center them.
So 15 feet back, it's 42 feet high, and where does that height start? How high off the ground?
I'll turn that over, actually. We do have a representative from Newman Sign. He can assist with some of those questions as well.
I got to open the public hearing first. Any other questions for the commission, from the commission before we go? Mr. Reichert?
Stop sharing.
Yeah, so the rule as I read it is, it's got to be 100 feet from any occupied structure, is that?
That's correct, yep.
So from that neighbor at 1131, it would have to be 100 feet from his property line?
Yeah, we did 100 foot from the property line. The code's a little vague. I think it could actually be from the
Right.
structure, but we went from where the zoning district is, and I talked with the representative from Newman Sign. He was erring on the side of safety as well. We went to the center of the alley, and they're going to be at least 100 feet away from that. It's over 100 feet from there, from
And
the
that-
zoning district itself.
Just for future, that's something we might want to look at for, you know, because these signs are lighted now. I think that's different than when they weren't lighted. You know, when they were just a static sign, having it 100 feet away is different than having how many square, I mean, this has got to be a lot of square feet.
It is, and thank you for bringing that up, because that was some of the other questions that he had, and I did ask Newman Sign to assist with what some of that would look like. They took some shots of some existing signs out there. Here, from where they're at, they're going to be looking at essentially just the pole, but here's a piece where they actually cover this, and this one's really hard to see. Hopefully you can see a little bit better on your screen, but here's what it's going to look like from that end, and they have some covering there, and he may be able to answer a little bit more. Here's another one where he said potentially he could V that,
Right.
and then I think help some of that noise or light pollution maybe escaping, but they also talked a little bit, and they're a little bit more qualified on this, but with the LEDs, they are one directional, so that does help. You don't end up with the same light pollution as opposed to a static one, that they're shining up on it, and then you end up with a lot more light escaping onto properties. So with them being internally lit, it's a lot different than that external lit that you see like along the interstate and that type of thing, so. But Jim England's here as well.
I'll keep my
from
lighting
Lumen
expert
Sign
stuff to myself.
and potentially somebody here on.
That's not right, but anyway. Okay, so I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience would like to step up and address? Please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I am Dominic Morin. I live at 1131 14th Avenue South, and my landlord and I had some concerns in regards to the placement of the sign, especially during the winter when snow is moved from South Washington. It's usually packed up onto that parking lot, and it's very hard to see around it, especially when you turn out into traffic. It's a huge concern, especially when the roads are in poor condition early in the mornings when you have to get to work. And I fear that this pole being in the way could potentially be a blocker for a lot of that snow. It could cause a berm to pile up around it. And I don't know if it's going to be set in stone, it's going to be set there. If maybe we could just have better snow removal around that area. Also, in terms of the actual location of the sign, while the light pollution, I don't have much of a concern about. It's more in regards to the maybe the visual element of it. You know, it's like rotating between advertisements. I got some of the details from it, and how it'd be once every 7 seconds, so it's not constantly flashing, but potential for maybe some visual distraction there. I mean, traffic there is already pretty bad as is, and any distracted drivers along that stretch of road, I fear that could cause some damage in the future. And I just am curious as to what may be done to possibly alleviate these concerns of mine if the sign is to actually be put there.
Mr. Eckert?
I don't want to get too personal here, but what windows face west out of the building that you're living in? What rooms are those?
Facing towards the road, they are the...
Well, facing towards where the sign would be.
Right.
Washington, right?
Yeah, facing towards Washington.
That would be the kitchen and the living room, dining room combination right there.
Would be facing towards Valley.
That's correct.
You look out your dining room window, you see, or living room window, you see Valley Dairy?
I do.
Okay.
I have some of the same concerns myself. That's what we were getting to ask, I guess, the sign company, get more specifics to. Anybody else?
Me as well on Zoom.
What's that?
Me as well on Zoom. Can you guys hear me?
There's a guy on Zoom.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's my landlord. He's
Okay.
the one that... initially brought this
Anything
up.
else, sir?
Those were my primary concerns in
Okay.
regards to just snow and the actual placement, but that was about it. for
Duly
me
noted.
anyway.
Do you mind if I call you back up if we have something else in a little bit?
Of course.
All right,
No
thank
problem.
you. Thank you very much. Okay, then we have a Zoom call. Public hearing still
Yes,
open.
earlier.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nicholas Smith, property owner of 1131 14th Avenue South. I did talk yesterday on the phone. He gave me a lot of details. He said Newman would be more than happy to help with schematics and the details of what would be kind of shown. And Dominic Morin helped me out a lot, bringing up a lot of the things that I thought were also big concerns with snow removal, because that's always a hassle. But the other concern would also be the light pollution. I know a bright green light at midnight could be very distracting, or, you know, if you're just trying to relax in the backyard, I'm pretty sure the other neighbors wouldn't like that either. So maybe a suggestion I would have is, like, maybe during twilight hours, the ads would be more dark in color, like maybe just, you know, darker letters like red or whatnot, but I know that'd be limiting to the advertisement people themselves. So I don't know if that's possible, or at least like bring down the light pollution that it would veer off, like dimming it down a little bit. As far as safety concerns, Dominic brought up most of those concerns that I had. And just things I want to make sure, safety is number one. And during the winter, as I said, it is hard enough as it is to turn out of there just going north, and trying to turn south is nearly impossible during certain hours. So if we can get more information on that, I'd be more comfortable. I'm glad the carton is down, or is supposed to be going down. That's good to hear. But as far as light pollution and safety and snow removal, those were my big concerns. And also property value.
Duly noted. I guess, anybody have any other questions for the people that spoke of the public hearing? Okay, Ms. Reichert?
Could we have Newman signs come up?
Yeah, we might as well keep it going.
Yeah.
Chair, members of the commission, I'm Jim England with Newman Signs. I think Ryan covered kind of the details of everything with the visual and
I'm gonna argue one point on the light pollution, just because it's what I do. In the winter, you have a whole new ball game with the snow reflection. So you got to keep that in mind. It is going to reflect, it is going to be bright, that whole area is going to be bright.
Okay.
Can you tell us where it's going to go and what it's going to look like?
I had drawings I submitted to Mr. Brooks that he might be able to show you. But it is a vertical format sign, kind of a newer type thing than you've seen.
I saw that. But what Mr. Brooks referenced maybe some like wings on the residential side that would block some of the light pollution. Or maybe have it angled, two signs have it angled.
Yes, that was something, that might be a possibility, have a slight V, so the light, actually with LED lighting, which is what digital billboards are, LED lighting is a direct lighting. There's a 140-degree view angle, so the light is concentrated toward where the sign is intended to face. So there isn't really any I don't know what you want to call it, additional light going the way it's not supposed to be. I have a little drawing, kind of what the angle of the lighting is. The residence is over here, I guess toward you. It's hard for you to see.
Can you share that? Can you bring that up here?
Can I bring it up? Yeah. Okay. That just kind of, we want to be good neighbors. This did, the fact that, I think the sign is going to be about 129 feet from the edge of the residential zone, further than that from the residence. So I want the person on the Zoom call and this gentleman here to know that prior to building the sign, I'd certainly want to, get with them on their concerns. As far as the lighting, it's kind of like, if you look at it, if you have a LED computer screen, if you're in front of it, you see the screen, you get off to the side, you can't see the screen anymore. You can even see it around town. If you look at the digital billboards, once you get to a certain angle, the screen's dark, and even the EMC on-premise signs, you look at those. We do have a digital billboard on South Washington, 24th, very similar situation, about the same distance from residential, and that's been no concern. I believe you asked about how high the sign would be at the bottom. The bottom of the sign would be approximately 15 feet high. That would allow for, if there was a semi-truck coming in or something like that, just to reduce possibility of anything hitting it.
So 15 feet high and then 42 feet?
No, that would be the overall height.
That's the overall height.
Yeah, from the ground level.
So
the actual sign face would be 11 feet wide by 27 feet high approximately.
Okay. So in that picture that you're passing around, it's one one panel on both sides. And in the
Correct.
one that we're looking at on our screen here, it's showing more of a cantilevered, more of an angled, the two sides are angled away from the building. Which one are you going to build?
I think we were gonna do we were gonna go back to back, but kind of a slight angle just to, kind of address the residential concern behind. That was drawn on Google and it might not be,
And is this the spot, the one that we're looking at on the screen, is that the spot that you're requesting?
yes, it is, approximately. It might be a little bit closer to the building.
What does a little bit mean?
I can't hardly see it, but it's approximately the spot, yeah. It wouldn't be,
Frank's got it.
I mean, that drawing may not be exact, it's gotta be outside the clear sight triangle, obviously, so. It's approximately right there. There is a little driveway there, so it would be west of the driveway or the cutout.
Mr. Matichak?
Yeah, that drawing showed 140 feet, I believe, from the residence to the street. You have to be 15 feet off of the street, and we have to be 100 feet from the residence. So that still leaves you some room in there between 15 and whatever it is to 100,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I guess they're asking, where is the red dot going to be in that between 15 and 100, 15 from 40, whatever it is? You still got 30-some feet in there to put the sign on, right? Or do you want to be that close to Washington?
We
where you're
want to
at
be
50?
close to Washington.
So you'd be right at the...
We actually want to be as
So you'd be
near
right
to
at
the right of
15,
way as
16
we-
feet?
The west side of the sign would be as near to the right of way as possible, just
Okay,
for
so the
viewing
pole,
for our
so would the pole be
advertisers.
further over then?
I'm missing something, Frank. I thought I heard 128 feet at that.
Well, the thing that just came around showed 140.
That's the angle.
Okay, so you're still at
140 is the
120?
angle of the light.
The angle of the light.
140
So
degrees.
if it's, okay, I got you.
I
So,
just want to make.
so if it's 120 then he's only got 5 feet to play with,
I agree.
right?
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Would the
edge of the sign have to
129
be on
feet is what, I
No,
don't
would
mean
the
to
edge of the
interrupt,
sign be
excuse
at
me.
the limit, or would the pole be at the limit?
I don't know.
Okay.
Good
that's-
question. That's why we're here. So.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 140 feet, I didn't see that was the angle.
No, it was 140 degrees is the angle of the light.
So we got 129 feet, right?
That would be
128,
the
129? From the
east-
structure, or from
Eastern
the,
part of the sign to the residential zone line, which
Property
is the
line.
middle of the alley. And then the residence is further east yet. I'm not sure of
Okay.
the
There's no
distance.
sign face, so where that edge of that sign is, was about 128, 129
Okay.
feet to the center of the alley, was my,
Yeah, and that's where the residential zoning is, and code
Yep.
requires that's 100 feet, so we exceed that.
right, and that's what we want to just double check. Mr. Riker?
So is it more expensive, or does it create logistical problems if we would require you to make that more of an A-frame like you have there as opposed to back-to-back?
I would not be opposed to that.
Okay.
No, no,
Okay.
not at all.
And it'd probably give you better visibility on the street, I would guess.
Absolutely.
Is there any requirements with the city as far as our planning, parking lots? Because I see what we did in Mexican Village and I voted no. What it did to that parking lot? What's the requirements on it? Does it take up any spaces or anything there in that end? I'm just want to make sure we're,
we haven't had any issues with parking, so if there was, if we ended up removing a parking stall here, that's not an issue, I don't think. It's making sure that we have access drives and everything in and out, but they're going to stay west of that driveway entrance, so.
This is a question
Driveway is
for
fairly wide.
construction people. How many trucks are higher than 15 feet?
not a lot.
Okay. So delivery, a box truck that would deliver to,
They got to be under 13 feet or something, right, Ben? There's
Okay.
two of us now, I got somebody
Okay.
else to lean on.
Good.
I even looked at you, Ben, I didn't.
I just see somebody
But you're
backing
13,
into this.
13 feet is kind of a typical roadway.
Okay.
and power lines and whatnot, so if they get any higher than that, they gotta have a variance.
Okay, so we're not gonna have people backing into the bottom of this sign, most likely?
I do agree with the one homeowner's concern, or renter's concern about the snow removal, because that is a big pile there, and you're not gonna be able to pile it up, so the owner's gonna have to haul out. Because you look at that lot here on the screen, there's nowhere to put snow.
Well, you shouldn't be piling on that corner anyway.
They do, drive down it, they all do.
And actually,
He's shaking his head, yes.
that was a new one to me, the snow, but I just can't see them piling snow right there by their entry.
They got 15 feet
Well,
to pile it.
I think they're gonna love piling it there, because they can't have anybody park there, so
They
they're
got
gonna
15 feet.
love piling snow there, yeah.
I think those are their prime stalls, I want to say, on that side of the building as well.
Does anybody have any questions for sign representative, Mr. Budke?
Yeah, just to clarify one thing, so the gentleman mentioned like how the images change, right? They rotate through, there's I believe it's in city code, right? There's a 7-second.
7 seconds it's a stationary ad, there's no scrolling or
Right.
motion. It's 7 seconds, and then it will change to the next ad, and it changes instantaneous.
Right, but there's no motion, there's no
No
effects,
motion, no
nothing like that.
scrolling letters.
Right.
By law, I don't know if it
Yes.
is in the Grand Forks Code, but this is a state highway, US, or federal
Mm-hmm.
highway, US 2, or 81, so it has to conform to
Right.
state and federal regulations, which would not allow scrolling, flashing lights, anything like
Right.
that. It does have to be a stationary image, and 7 seconds is kind of a standard throughout different cities. I don't believe
In Grand Forks.
Grand Forks does have a 7-second hold. That's typically what we do because it works for advertisers as well, so,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. If there's nothing further, bring it back to the commission.
The one thing I've been asked the question of whether or not, if Valley Dairy did their normal electronic sign, they could have one on this site, could be fairly large, and it would be a 1-second hold time, which is what our requirement is in code. And we ask for consistent transitions on those, but there can be different consistent transitions with those, whereas, like he said, with the billboards, they are, there is no flash or anything. It's one image to the next. So that's been a federal standard as well. So what we have in our code is consistent with that as well.
Mr. Ricker.
I'm gonna move approval, but with the stipulation that it has to be in the location that is shown there, and that it has to be cantilevered out as depicted in what's on our screen. So that the V, so it angles away. That the pole be at a minimum in the center of the sign. And if they want to change it, they got to come back and ask us.
I'll second that for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Matichak. Did you get that, Jane? Okay. Did you get the motion okay?
I did, okay.
Okay, discussion, Mr. Budke.
Yeah, so Alex, when you say in this location, right, we were just talking about how much play there is. What do you mean?
Right there.
There's a location, it's right there, right where they've got it.
Okay. How many feet?
I don't know, whatever it shows on the picture. I just don't like it when somebody comes to us, shows us something, and then I go out there and look at it, and it's in a completely different spot.
Yeah, I think it could have came to us a little more detailed. This is a final. It's not this isn't a preliminary. It's a final. This is what happened to us last time. So we got to make sure, I agree with Alex. I want to make sure it's right there. If that meets the requirements on the 120 or 100 feet and all that, it's right there. If we're not ready for that, then vote it down.
Another question.
Mr. Budke, please.
So, okay, we saw two images of sort of the side profile of these signs, right? One of them was angled, right, like like Mr. Reichert's motion, and I think there was another one that was more squared off, but perhaps it had like a shroud on one side? Did I say that correctly?
We put a shroud, or we call it an end cap.
Sure.
Cover, so you don't see the structure in behind, especially from there, you know, it's from the distance at 125 and 29 feet, that's going to be kind of almost looking at a telephone pole.
Yep.
Up close or something.
Yep. I want to be mindful of the light pollution, right? Because there are residences here. So I guess is it an either or, right? Like, can you either put a shroud on in any case, no matter what the angle is? And then what cuts down on, you know, the light pollution headed east toward those residences? What would obscure that the most? Does that make sense?
I guess like what Mr. Reichert suggested, having the V.
Yep.
So
We
it
got too
doesn't-
many maybes to
and
vote
then
on this thing.
140-degree angle.
I wanna
into
see what we're
LEDs,
gonna
like
put in
you
there.
guys, it said when you go to the side of your computer screen,
Mm-hmm.
I think having that slight V to it would definitely eliminate any light going directly east.
Okay.
And even as a back-to-back, it likely wouldn't, but this would certainly ensure that.
Okay. So it could be in the V configuration, and it could also have like a shroud or an end cap.
Yeah, it will.
It would.
It will have an end cap. yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question, Mr. Budke. I was wondering the same thing. I'm struggling that we got a resident, property owner, and a bunch of other stuff going on here, and we got a maybe, a could do this, and a maybe. Mr. Matacek, you raising your hand on me?
Yeah,
Please.
I'm trying to figure out this as much as I can. I did make the motion to second it because I thought we did deserve more discussion on this. However, I think the more I look at it for right now, even though I made that second, I am going to vote against this particular situation at this time. But I'm glad we had the discussion. We need to bring this stuff back. We need to get more of a firm footing on. I don't know how many, 30 years of signs? I tell you what, it never ends. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matacek. Any other further discussion?
Frank, what do you want to see?
I'm just interesting about how much more this is going to develop up the corridor, how many other problems we have, plus the concerns of the resident. You know, the Mexican Village sign is a good example. There's nobody living there, so that's a little different. But the other place, the other Mexican restaurant, where they had the lights of the parking lot going right into the house. We made them put up a fence, and I mean, you should, because, you know, that's just the way it is. But that's my concern. I don't really know where it should go. He's got to go 15 feet, he's got to go 100 feet from there. We've had questions about whether it should be shrouded or the flashing or whatever's there, and I'd just like to see us have more of a firm stance on how we're going to do these. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Matacek. With that, Mr. Budke, one more?
Sorry, one last comment. So, because there's the three criteria here, I do feel like when we're talking about the vertical format, right, that does help. Like, I've seen one of these signs not far from my parents' house in Fargo. It's not been there forever. But it does help with that. So I feel like that we should take that into consideration. And then also, we did just go through this process where we amended the ordinances, right, about the 500-foot rule, and this does seem to meet that. So I guess I just want to say that there seems to be a good faith effort being made here to like stay within the law, but maybe it needs to be a little bit more precise, talking about exact locations
I think
and
that's
configurations.
I agree with you. I think that's where we're at. I mean, I want to see right here.
Steve, I will let you know the property owner just had his hand up to speak again.
I don't see anything here, but I guess I close the public hearing. Is everybody okay with that?
I have
Please.
a few questions.
Please, sir, continue.
So just a few more. I have a question. If we find out after the sign is installed, and the accident rate does increase on that intersection or near that sign, can we have the right to have that sign taken down?
It'd be pretty hard.
Yeah.
Pretty hard when it's up.
Yeah, we want to get it right the first time.
Yeah, I agree. And also, a solution to the light pollution, would it be possible to have someone do a light study around the area at night and to see if to guarantee it not increase? Because I do know the comment about the snow was brought up. At night, even the road lights, it does create a lot more light pollution just because everyone knows the snow just reflects more light. So I don't know if we can probably get a study done, if that's possible.
Mr. Brooks?
Well, it could be requested. That's a tough one because in this case, that's what I was kind of hitting on before. The on-premise sign could be a worse offender than an off-premise. That's my concern. That's what could happen, and a non-premise sign doesn't come before this body. So we could request, you could request one. We could check with them to find out. I don't know what one of those looks like, but we could request that study to be done. But I've never seen one. I'm not an expert on the light. I know there are some out there, though. Some folks
You can hire a study done if you want. Okay.
Okay. I know it just takes like a meter, just like a light meter, just someone really going out there and holding it up and just takes in what light pollution is. I think an electrician can probably do it. But if we can get those sold, I just feel like there's more information that can be gathered. And I just got a letter about it in the mail before the Labor Day weekend, so I didn't know this was going on, to be fair. So I didn't know this was already in final stages. Otherwise, I would have brought this up way beforehand, so I do apologize for that.
Yeah, it's the first time this commission's seeing it as well. It's just a one-time through for each.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But that's all the questions that I have regarding the matter.
Okay, is that it? I can't see if his hand's still up or, are we good?
I think so.
Okay. Not hearing anything from Zoom world, so.
Is it too much to ask for a dimensioned plan?
Yeah.
No, another option, I know we've heard approve and not approve. There is an option to table. If you want more of that information, we could table this and bring it back next month. That would be another option that's out there.
Mr. Akert?
I'll move to table.
I'll second.
Ms. Earl seconded that. Not debatable, not amendable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is tabled.
For next month, we'll bring back more of that information, look for more of that detail on the site plan and the other information
I
that we
think what the commission's saying, and I think what we're all saying, and the neighbors are saying, we can't approve something that's going to be like this, because you're never going to take it down unless we have all the facts.
And Ryan, when you do get it, what I'd like to see is, and I'm sure Newman can do this, give me another schematic that is to scale. So I don't know if this one that you have here is to scale or not. I'm guessing it's not. So show us what that 27 by 11 or whatever it is will really look like next to that building. Do you know what I mean?
I will add, just for the property owner and the tenant who's here, tabling it would require us to republish it. So there would be another notice to the neighbors, the same letters who got, that there'll be an additional meeting, just so you're aware.
Perfect.
Did the neighbor at 1130 Hammerling get a notification, because he's going to be affected by that too? The guy across the alley?
Yeah, I think he's within.
Yeah.
Can we just
Yeah.
make sure that he gets one? Can we just make sure that he gets one?
Yep. If he wasn't on the list, we'll verify it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Item 4, communication and preliminary approvals, 4.1.
4-1, ordinance to amend zoning map, rezone to B3 general General Business District, Lots 6 through 12, Block B, Alexander and Ives Addition, located at 624, 1211, and 1215 7th Avenue North.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you. So, up on North Washington now, this is the former Listen Center site. There's a potential sale, request for purchase on the property to change it to a daycare center. I think, probably not everybody, I don't know, well, I know Ben wasn't here, I don't know about Jenny, but we had a request a while ago for property to the north to change zoning. And at that time, we knew the Listen Center was going to be changing ownership eventually because they were in the process of building their site. I'll turn on the zoning in the area. So this is now B3, this 702. We're still in the process of updating our zoning here. But the Listen Center site itself is a B1, which is a limited business site. And then where the playground is actually an R4. And then they own the house next to it as well, which is in an R4 district. So at that time, we talked about changing the zoning, and you guys have kind of said, like the concept, but let's see what's going to go there first. Let's not just change zoning. And so now we have a buyer. They're looking to change it into daycare center. Ironically, that could go in these other districts as well, but it just makes more sense in the end to make this zone for that commercial center, daycare center. So 1215, 1211 as well. That allows them to, it frees them up with that impervious lot coverage. B3 goes up to a little bit more. They're going to do probably, it's going to be a playground. It's going to be some of those things as well. But the owner is here. This is a preliminary, or I should say the proposed owner. This is preliminary zoning. We have final next month where we actually notify around the folks 800 feet around this property. So with that, I can stand for any other questions. And
Mr. Matichek, his hands up.
Are the houses going down or are they going to stay?
I'll let that owner, I believe they're staying.
Please step up the microphone and state your name and address.
D. Decimus Homes, and I live at 6974 South Columbia Road. And yes, the buildings are staying. The residential home it is right now is planning to be like our baby rooms. So there should be approximately 48 babies in the home, and then we're going to be licensed for 96 in the commercial property. And then we're planning on fencing the whole thing for outdoor use and stuff. And we're planning to close on 10/13. We were one of 6 recipients for the Workforce Center grant that came through the initiative through here at Grand Forks County. So we received the funding to buy the building and open the daycare center for more daycares here in town.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Mr. Riker?
So what if they don't do that and there's a house sitting in B3? Does that matter?
Well, we have some houses in B3, some of them are businesses.
Okay.
So, yeah, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
But is R1 a conforming use to B3 or?
No, so you mean single-family home?
Yep.
Single-family home use would be a non-conforming in a B3.
I know we talked about this before on the other one. So could they take 1211, chop that off, sell that as a home, single-family home? I mean, in theory, they could.
They could have.
And then we'd
once they
have
do
to
the
switch
zoning.
the zoning back.
Yep.
Which is doable.
Yep.
Okay.
If she wants to operate it, as she said, she's going to have the babies in there, we consider that an approved use. If they wanted to, let's say, eventually she, moves the babies to another area, I don't know if that's even possible, but,
So
and then
there's
convert it back.
stipulations in the grant monies, so we can't sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then forget it.
There you go. That's easy.
Yeah.
So long as she's receiving grant money.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I
a-
might
it's
not
a
be here
one-time
50
thing.
years from now.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Move approval.
Second.
Moved by, whoa. Something from the God up there. Yeah.
Sandy?
Megan, was that you?
It was me.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, we'll put you down. All right, hey, for Mr. Budke.
Sorry. Okay, so we talked about the conforming and the non-conforming uses. So if the daycare center could be in a B1 or the R4, why do we need to?
That was on impervious coverage. So this is, by going to a B3, it's going to allow her to do more on the site. R4s, you're limited to impervious coverage of, for a single family, I want to say it's less. It's not 60, it's 50.
Okay.
Yeah, 35.
So it's sort of loosening up on the site plan design? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
For those. Yep.
Any further discussion? If not, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 4-1 passes. Reports from the planning department. Mr. Brooks, anything?
Nope.
Other business, anyone? With that, I'm looking to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Reichert. Second by Mr. Kuhn. Meeting adjourned.